travel overall has been remarkably robust globally from China for many, many, many years. But it's also changing. And I think also, we've seen a lot of that change before 2020. We're seeing some of that change in 2020, I think, in terms of how Chinese are traveling domestically. And I think that will also be reflected once the market begins to reopen. Mm-hmm. The big change, of course, is the growth of FIT travelers. And that's been coming for a long time. And we've been able to see that in research, but also behavior of travelers. For many destinations, such as, let's say US, even Canada, Australia, some European destinations, FIT is maybe 50% or more, or certainly close to 50% of the inbound travel. That's really where the growth is. Group business continues to grow, but the growth rate is just much smaller at the moment. And group business will still be there, but the thing to remember is that only about 13% of Chinese people have passports, which is really low compared to most other countries around the world. I mean, in most European countries, it's 50% or over 50%. In Canada, Australia, it's certainly very close to 50%. So China is still really growing. There's a lot of growth opportunity out there.
It's so shocking to think of how important this demographic is around the world and how little of the potential is actually being reached at this point.
Yeah, we're still very much in the phase one. And I say this to people, and they they roll their eyes at me, and I said, but really look at the numbers.
Yeah.
And I think there's a very good Morgan Stanley report that came out a couple of months ago, which is really powerful, and talks about how they estimate that between now and 2030, which is not a very long time away, Chinese consumer spending is basically going to double. So by 2030, consumer domestic spending in China is going to be about $16 trillion. That is equal to what US domestic consumer spending is right now. Mm-hmm. And that means that the average person in China is going to have about $12,000 a year in disposable income. That's a huge game changer in terms of how retail, travel, and all of these other related industry segments are going to benefit. I mean, just look, if you have that kind of economic growth and that kind of behavioral change because of financial change, you're going to go from 190 million Chinese passports to 600 million Chinese passports between now and 2030. And no one's going to get a passport for fun. They're going to get it because they're going to use it. And that means they're going to go all over the world. And they're going to do all the things that their neighbors have done and share it on social media and really join the global, upper middle class experience that is definitely taking over in China and has taken over the world. And in travel retail, I mean, I think that's going to be amazingly powerful. The big question, one of your questions is and for the brand clients that we work with is what is going on in Sanya and Hainan? Is that real? Is this here to stay? Mm-hmm. And I've heard a lot of different opinions about it. I mean, our general philosophy on what's going on is that this is kind of a false positive. It's like a rainy day. And rainy day, people buy umbrellas. But tomorrow's going to be a sunny day, and you're not going to need your umbrella. So we have a rainy day situation where people are acting and behaving in a certain way because they're required. There's no other choice. But when you look at some of the numbers more deeply in terms of what is actually selling in the duty free in Hainan and Sanya, it tends to be actually not so much of the high priced items. It's not the fine jewelry. It's not the watch.
I think you mentioned that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's kind of generally pricing under $1,000. It's kind of gift items. It's personal small items, which is good. And of course, it's the only bright, the bright story in the global luxury and premium brand market right now. So people are excited about it. It's the only really good story. But the question is, what's going to happen when 150 million Chinese can travel the world? And I think actually it's going to go back to kind of where it was before.